Hey everyone, I'm Pion and welcome to my preview of Decksplash. So this game is supposed to enter Steam Early Access in autumn this year and is in a limit alpha phase right now, which means you can only play it for 2 hours every Friday if you have access to the game in the first place. And this is also the reason why this is not live footage. This is pre-recorded gameplay because it's not Friday right now. I can't play the game. So yeah, what is it? Well, I would like to describe it as a mix of Splatoon and a skateboard game. And that might sound weird at first, but it hopefully makes sense after I explain to you how this works exactly. So as you can clearly see, you're playing as a skateboard, and so do the other players in the game. It's a 3v3 competitive arena-based game. And, well, you're driving around as a skateboard, doing jumps and tricks and grinds and manuals, and you chain those tricks together to create combos. And whenever you land a combo, you will create a splash of paint in the color of your team, so either blue or yellow. And the bigger your combo, so the more points you get for that combo, the bigger the splash of color will be, and the more parts of, or the bigger area of the arena will be covered by that paint and by the color of your team. And that's the goal of the game. Cover the arena in the color of your team, so either blue or yellow. If the majority of the arena is covered in your team's color, or if more parts of the arena are covered in your team's color as opposed to the opponent's team's color, then your point counter will go down. The point counter is in the center top of the screen, and it starts at 100, and when it reaches 0, you win the round or the match. And that's it. That's the core mechanic of the game, and that's surprisingly fun. It's really fun to play, I have to say. It's really cool. But let's go a little bit more in depth on the mechanics. So there are a few more mechanics besides the core concepts I just explained. First of all, there's the shockwave, which you can see down in the lower left. There's a shockwave meter, which fills up whenever you drive through allied paint, so paint in the color of your team. And when it fills up completely, you can activate the shockwave, and the shockwave will have two different effects. It will affect allies near you, it will double their current combo, so it's good to boost allies with it, and it will disrupt enemies who are nearby you. Disrupting means they will be pushed back and their combo will be lost completely. By the way, don't get confused by this weird overlay effect you can see here right now. That's not the game, that's just me being terrible at video editing. And that's why I usually have video formats where I don't do video editing, because, yeah, I'm terrible at it. But, well, in this case I have, and, well, yeah. But anyway, you see the result. Let's continue talking about the game, maybe. So, that's a shockwave, as I said. So you can either boost allies or disrupt enemies nearby. And that's a good mechanic, I think. It gives you an incentive to actually, well, notice the other players, because it obviously makes sense to boost allies who are on a huge combo right now, or disrupt enemies who are on a huge combo. And you can see which combo they are on with the circle above their head, so you can see. And if they are on a very high combo, it will actually be especially highlighted. I think it's glowing purple. And that gives you a good reason to, when your shockwave meter is full, to drive close to them and activate the shockwave. The problem I have with the shockwave right now is that it's kind of hard to hit something with it, because there is no indicator for the range of the shockwave whatsoever, so it becomes an experience thing. You have to just know how big the range of it is, which is a little unfortunate, but it's an early alpha of the game, so I imagine developers might improve that later on in the game. Okay, the second big mechanic of the game is the landing zone. It's usually in the center of the arena, and it will spawn after a few seconds, and then any team can claim it by just driving through it. You could see me earlier in this match actually doing it. And that will activate the landing zone for that team for a few seconds. After it will despawn and then respawn again in a neutral state after a few seconds later. And when the landing zone is active for your team, you can land the combo in the landing zone. And if you do so, the points of that combo will be multiplied by a factor. That factor will increase for every time the landing zone will be activated. So later in the game, that combo multiplier can get really high to 10 or something like that. Right now it's at 5, as you can see. So if, I think the blue team claimed the landing zone right now. If they land a combo in the landing zone, they will multiply that combo by 5, which will create a huge splash. And it is in fact the case that if you create a really, really huge combo in this game, then you will create a giant splash, which will cover almost all of the arena. While if you do very small combos, you will only cover very, very tiny spots of the arena. And that's probably what you will see me doing here most of the time, because I'm not really good at the game. Well, in the later matches I got the hang of it, I guess, but in the first few matches I'm pretty terrible. So, okay, one more mechanic and that I want to talk about, and that is the manual. So doing a manual, if you're not familiar with skateboarding, is driving on only 2 of the 4 wheels on a skateboard, and you perform a manual in this game by landing in a certain angle and pressing the grind button at the same time. So you have to land in a way that that only 2 wheels touch the ground. And it's a pretty precise angle. And so it's not super easy to pull off. It's not super tricky either, but it's not like just press the grind button and it will work. You have to aim for it. And the point of the manual is to chain combos together. So you do a jump, you land in a manual, you jump again, land on the grind rail, and jump again and land in a manual again. And you can chain combos together that way quite nicely. So if you're doing a manual, you usually slow down. If you're doing a manual while you're on opponent's paint, you will slow down even more. If you're doing a manual while you're driving through your own paint or your team's paint, you will not slow down whatsoever. So that's a very subtle mechanic, but it adds another layer of complexity to the game, especially in combination with the shockwave feature or mechanic. This creates an effect that, besides covering the arena in paint is the goal of the game, it also gives you a tactical advantage, because those mechanics trigger on whether or not you're driving on your own paint or your opponent's paint. And so that gives the game a little bit more depth. However, if you compare that to Splatoon, I never played Splatoon, so I might be talking out of my ass here, but that's what I think to know about the game. In Splatoon, you can use your allied paint to dive through, which gives you very high mobility. And I think it also refills your ammunition. I'm not 100% sure on that one though. And that means, and that's both these 2 features combined create a pretty big impact on the game, from what I can tell at least. And that's similar to Decksplash, but in Decksplash it's way more subtle. So it doesn't really, it doesn't give you a huge advantage to cover the arena in paint. Obviously, it lets you win the game, because if the arena is majorly painted in your color, then your counter will go down and you win the game by getting the counter to 0, obviously. But it will only help you very minimal besides that, because the shockwave is important, but it's fairly easy to fill up. Like, it fills up very quickly. Maybe it would be a little bit more important to have the arena colored in your color when the shockwave would not fill up as quickly. On the other hand, though, covering the arena with your paint is the goal of the game already, so it's very important already. So maybe there doesn't need to be another incentive. So yeah. Okay, so much for the mechanics. As I said earlier, the game is really fun in my opinion. It controls very well. You can play it with the controller or with the keyboard. The game itself recommends playing with the controller. I don't think that's fair, because it controls perfectly fine with the keyboard. I personally prefer playing it with the keyboard. That's probably personal preference, however. When I personally prefer something, it's personal preference. That makes sense. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I'm better with the keyboard, actually. But that's probably personal preference, because I'm used to playing with the keyboard. I don't play with the controller regularly. When I play Decksplash with the controller, I seem to just spin the boards in an uncontrolled way. And when I play with the keyboard, I seem to have more control over the landing especially, and being more capable of landing combos and chaining tricks together. And that's obviously very important for a game like this. So yeah, your mileage might vary, but that's just my experience. But it works fine with the controller as well. If you're wondering, the keyboard controls are WASD, or arrow keys for moving around, WASD for flipping and spinning the board, and Q and E for rotating it, and F for activating the shockwave, Shift for grinding and doing a manual, and space for jumping. And that works fine, in my opinion. It works very well. And as I said, the game is just fun. It's not super deep right now. Like, it's fairly limited. And I think it would become fairly repetitive in the current state the game is right now. So it's maybe a good thing that the alpha is as limited as it is. But it's an alpha version, so the developers might have some more tricks planned. So maybe they will, or I hope they will add more features, or maybe different game modes, something like that, to make the game a little bit more, well, a little bit more deep and give it a little bit more complexity later on during the development. And that will probably, or hopefully, make the game more enjoyable. But as I said, it's fairly enjoyable right now, just not for very long. So, in my opinion, anyway. But it's a really cool competitive game. It's at the same time very casual. You can just play it. It doesn't take long to get into it. It will take a while to master it, definitely. It's not easy to control a skateboard and chain huge combos. Or create huge combos, and then you can add the strategic layer onto it, that you try to land the combo in certain places, which are like, yeah, important to paint with color, because it doesn't help to end the combo in a part of the arena where only your team's color is already anyway, so which is already covered with your team's color anyway. So yeah, it's kind of an easy to learn how to master situation, but it could be harder to master, is what I'm trying to say, because it will get fairly repetitive, as I just mentioned. But yeah, it's fun. Rounds don't take long. It's easy to get into. It's very refreshing, a very refreshing concept. Obviously, the idea is borrowed by Splatoon and skateboarding games, but it's a cool idea to mix those two, and I think nobody did that ever. Also, one of the promo material trailers for this game is hilarious. It's basically 3 guys in green suits, like full body suits in green color, and a skateboard, or 3 skateboards, running around the city. And the premise of the video is that they told these guys that it will green screen them out later, but they lied. And it's obviously not true. You could not green screen them out, and it's just a joke. But it's pretty funny in my opinion. So you can check that out on the Steam page or YouTube, or on the official page as well, I think. And yeah, that's everything I want to say about this game. It's fun. I definitely will keep my eye on it. I will put a link in the description below to the Steam page and also to the official website, because there you can sign up to get access to the alpha. So if you want to test it out yourself, try to get lucky and well, sign up and try to get lucky and get a spot in the alpha. I definitely recommend it right now. But to gain a full, like, to make a complete statement about how good the game is, obviously, I will have to wait for release and play a little more. So yeah, it's called Decksplash. It's very fun and colory. Oh, there's one more thing I want to mention. The music, while great, very repetitive, because it's, I think, only 1 track. But yeah, it's alpha, so they will hopefully add more later in the development. So yeah, it's called Decksplash. Link is in the description below. I'm TH Pine. Thanks a lot for watching. Have fun and see you next time.